Hello, this is Partial Hangout here, back with another video, and in this video, I'm going to be going over why game development is hard for me, personally, what makes it so hard. And I am a game developer. I don't have anything on the market, so of course, take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm basically just going over my experience with game development. I've worked on a project for over the past 4 years, over 4 years, and I made a video on it too. I should have it as a card or something up there, but essentially I went over how I started game development, the process, what the game even is. It's a top-down sci-fi bullet hell game, pixel art, stuff like that. I'll probably have gameplay up on the screen, but essentially I feel like the elephant in the room is that 4 years and why it's taken so long for me to develop a game, why it's just taking so long. And this video is basically unscripted. I'm just looking over at notes and stuff and just gonna go over my personal experience with that. So yeah, elephant in the room, 4 years. To any normal person, what in the world is going on? Why, like, 4 years? You should have like maybe 2 or 3 games in your arsenal already out there on the market. And I think a key word that is basically why it's taken long is discipline. I feel like with game development, especially as a hobby, discipline must be mastered. And I guess to define discipline, it's just making sure you stay committed to something even when you don't want to be committed. Like, making sure that you have that strength and fortitude to stay and stick with something when you don't want to, knowing that it will pay off in the end, or knowing that there's something better on the other side of this once you get through it. So I wanted to kind of touch on some other hobbies, other creative hobbies specifically, and kind of compare them to game development, so I can kind of just like lay a little groundwork for what I mean here. So I also play guitar. It should be in the background there. I have a guitar there in the background. But I play guitar, and I also do exercising too. I'll talk about both of those. But I feel like with game development, it's a very demanding hobby compared to playing guitar or exercising. And it's just with game development, right? You're working on a game by yourself. What do you have to do? You have to code the game. You have to learn how to code a game. You have to, make the logic for it, scripts for it, etc. You have to learn how to do that, math, etc. But what else? Well, you have to decide how the game's gonna look, right? So you have to be good at art, make a good drawings for the game so that the game can use for art. Or you can, of course, get someone to do it for you, pay them or whatever. But generally, you have to plan for that. You have to just have that sorted out, because it's going to cost money if someone's going to do it for you, right? So you have to really, like you're pretty much going to be making the art unless you're paying money. So what else? You have to, if your game has story, you're going to have to come up with a story. You're going to have to be a good writer and make sure that it fits well and that it's decent. When your game's almost finished, you have to learn how to market it, learn how to get it out there. And there's just, I could go on, but there's just a lot of hats that a game developer needs to wear. You also have to be a good planner too. Plan out what you're going to be doing, what you're going to be making. And like, if for a big studio, all these different roles all have different employees for them at a big company, right? But when you're a solo developer, all those roles fall on you, right? I guess this is probably a different experience if you've worked on a small team, but I've worked always alone pretty much until I hired an artist to help me out. But this is just my perspective as kind of mainly a solo developer. But it's a very demanding hobby. And then when you compare it to like guitar, for example, what I'm doing with guitar is just doing like a basic practice exercise for like an hour and then I'm done. Or like I'm learning a song for an hour or so. I'm just plucking the strings, and I love guitar. I don't want to say that the hobby is like, the hobby takes a lot of skill and dedication too. But I feel like it's easier, in my opinion, as someone who plays guitar and as someone who's done game development. I feel like it's easier to commit to guitar because there's not much like going on. You're just practicing, getting your technique down, building your finger strength, memorizing songs. It's very easy going. It's very simple to just pick up and play for an hour or so. But with game development, it's like, what are you gonna do next? What are you gonna plan? Like, what's next in this process of making the game? There's just so much to it. Same thing with exercising too. You're probably lifting weights or doing some calisthenics. It's like you do that and then you're done. And then it's just like there's so much more going on with game development. It's a very creative hobby, and I feel like that's what really makes it harder to stay disciplined. It's very demanding. And I'm just going to talk about a few other things about it, is that roadblocks are frequent too because of all this demand. Coding in and of itself is very difficult. It can be very difficult. You'll often run into errors, roadblocks, and not know what's going on with your game, why something isn't working, and you'll have to go and figure it out. And that takes time, lots of time. You'll be like wanting to develop something, and then all of a sudden you spend all your time trying to fix some little issue, right? Like, I don't know, something's not moving the way you want, or it's not showing up on screen. And then also too, with all the other hats to wear, like being an artist or whatever, you might run into a roadblock with the art. You don't know what to do. You don't know if you should make it. You don't know if you should hire it, or you gotta pay someone to make the art for you. Or you gotta buy some. You don't know where to take the story. You don't know how to design the characters. It's like there's a lot of potentiality for roadblocks that make it more frustrating to stay disciplined. Meanwhile, with guitar, I don't feel like I've ever ran into roadblocks. I just, if you run into something a song you can't play, you just keep practicing until you can play it, or practice an adjacent technique or an easier song, and then there you go, right? Or with exercising, you don't really like run into roadblocks. Oh, you can't lift this. You probably want to go lighter. That's just how I see it. And I think one of the biggest things too is that with those two hobbies I mentioned, guitar and exercising, both of which that I do, right? The payoff is something that you can kind of easily see. Like, it's easy to get satisfied with those hobbies, in my opinion. Like, you play guitar, right? Especially if you're trying to learn some easy song that you can play really quick. It's like, there's like instant gratification once you learn an easy song, or even just a part to a song that's hard. Once you learn that little part, it's like you automatically feel instant gratification that feeds you to keep going. Or same thing with exercising. You look yourself in the mirror, you see, oh, I'm looking pretty pumped today. It's like, that feels you like, oh yeah, I'm going to come back for next time, or I couldn't do this many reps. Now I can do this many. I'm going to go next time. But with game development, it's like, what's the goal of game development? To make a game. And if it's not finished, I never really, I mean, I would get satisfaction when I would develop major parts of my game, but generally it's like, I feel like the majority of the satisfaction comes once you actually finish something with game development. Not parts of the game, I mean, satisfaction, like I said, can come, but I feel like finishing the whole game or finishing a project is where really the game development satisfaction comes from. And it's like, if you don't know how to scope your game correctly and manage how big it's going to actually be, that day might never come. And it's like, at least for me, I would just be kind of like developing on short-term pleasures instead of like the long-term, if that makes any sense. But I feel like all these reasons just lead to quick burnout, and that makes it hard to stay disciplined. Not to mention that life can get in the way. You're busy with school, with work, with family, and then all those different things that I just mentioned that make it hard to stay disciplined. Now life is getting in the way, and then that just makes it so much more difficult. I mean, like, it's just game development just demands so much time and commitment, so much to plan, so much to be good at, so much to learn, lots of things to learn, roadblocks, planning, all these different things just make it so, for me at least, difficult to stick to it and to stay focused on it. Now, I'm talking about all this that kind of seem a little gloomy, right? And I plan to finish my game, Mech Slasher, that I'm working on. I plan to finish it. At this point in time, I really do want to finish it. And finish it fast. Like, no more years. Like, I'm talking, like, months. But, what's, like, I'm obviously being gloomy a little bit. Like, oh, it's just so demanding, so hard. But, I guess, if I were to talk about a solution... And it's like, obviously, I haven't fully released the game. I don't want to sound like an authority here. I don't know if I fully found it yet. Like, I don't have a game on the market. But in my experience, I personally believe it to be vision. Defined set goals that you have for what you're making. And having a limited scope. I'm going to do this and this. I'm not going to add more. I'm not going to make it so big. I'm going to make it nice and small. Easy for me to finish. And move on to something else. Because even if you don't put your game on the market, you don't have to do that. But once you finish something, anything, show it to a friend, show it to a family member, put it on some site that you can just have it up there for free, that people can try and leave comments. That fuels you. That would fuel me. And it's like I would cut a lot of things from my games, like less bosses. I wanted an ability system, like each time you beat a level, you get like an ability or something like that. Or like there's like a bunch of abilities to choose from, and you gotta buy one and make your character stronger. All this stuff that's just would make it so much longer to develop and make. I wanted a secret final boss, but then it's just like, okay, that costs more money, right? More art to make. So it's like, okay, let me just make the secret boss the normal boss. So, normal final boss. But it's like, when you're developing a game, you really just gotta have a small scope. You shouldn't, I wouldn't recommend someone to work on a game they plan to release first. Make small little projects and make sure you keep them small. You might be like, oh, there's so much I could add, but really... No, keep it simple. Main menu, basic gameplay, and then that's it. And just keep working on those small projects until you get comfortable. You're like, okay, I'm really getting a sense for finishing things. I'm really getting a sense for managing my time, managing the development process, and then slowly creep up to like, okay, this is what I want to do to release a thing. Like, I truly feel that just having defined goals is what you need, because once you practice finishing, it's easier to make a realistic goal, not make something you can't achieve. And once you have that realistic goal, it's gonna push you to keep going, like, oh, I know I can finish this. I know that I'll finish. I know what I want, and I know what it's gonna get me, and this is what I want, because it's like I said, I feel like with this hobby compared to others, it's just like you don't feel that sense of satisfaction that you do with others. It's very, very, you're taking the high road. It's a very time-dragging process, game development. So, I feel like having defined goals and limiting your scope is ultimately the best thing you can do to combat this procrastination, I guess you could call it, and cement your discipline for your projects in your game development journey. At least that's, as I've said, my experience, what I've come to understand. Now that I'm personally kind of getting a vision for wanting to release this, I've planned out what I need to do to finish and all that jazz. I feel like I've started to become more disciplined, you could say. Because it's like when you don't have a plan, you don't know what you're doing. You're just kind of spontaneously developing. But I could go on forever and ever, but I hope that you understand kind of my main idea and where I'm coming from, and just why I find game development to be hard. A hard hobby. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I got for this video. I hope you enjoyed, got some insight out of it. And if you don't know anything about my game, definitely check out that video I mentioned earlier about my game. I really do plan to release it. I really want to. And yeah, thanks for stopping by. Check out my other stuff. If you like what you see, subscribe, hit the like button, share this with friends. And yeah, that's all I got. Partial Hangout, signing off.